All right, good morning and welcome to the JP Peterson Show on this Tuesday morning as we're still kind of bathing in the glow of the Super Bowl, and the Bucs still don't have an offensive coordinator or a quarterback for that reason, unless you're counting on Kyle Trask. So we're going to get into all things Buccaneers, what's going on with them as they move forward in this quest to find an offensive it's quarterback and an OC, and we'll also be talking a little bit more about the Super Bowl. We'll look ahead to what's going on with the Rays as they will be doing some media sessions today as the pitchers and catchers start reporting to Disney World. Will this be a Disney story season for the Tampa Bay Rays? So we'll hit that as well and some other interesting notes as we move forward. Say good morning to Nick Ennis. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, JP. Like you said, the Bucs still looking for that OC, that head coach. And I tell you what, as a Bucs fan, and I know Bucs fans can all relate, a all too familiar feeling being on the search for two very important things. And it doesn't feel great. No. It doesn't feel great. And the signs of how 2023 are going to go, the offseason hasn't even really begun yet. And right now, my optimism level is very low.
Well, that's the thing right now is this team is such a question mark. It is such a complete question mark. Our good friend Scotty Reynolds yesterday reporting that both Todd Monken and Dan Pitcher, as we said yesterday, have turned down the Buccaneers. A pitcher staying in Cincinnati looks like he's going to be able to maybe get that OC job there, if not this year, certainly next year, as guys move up through the ranks. And, why not sit there and stay and work with Joe Burrow, then come to Tampa Bay and you don't know who your quarterback is going to be. Right now, Kyle Trask is the only quarterback under contract for the Buccaneers. So they're very much in need of a veteran quarterback. And who's that guy going to be? And the latest news is they interviewed Scotty Montgomery, who is currently the Lions running backs coach. The previous couple of years, he's been in Indianapolis working with Jonathan Taylor. Before that, he was the head coach at, was it East Carolina?
East Carolina, yeah.
East Carolina, and not a very good one. It is down to who's going to take this job. And I got a crazy thought for you, Nick. I got a crazy thought. Okay, at this point, nobody wants the job, right? Because they all look at Todd Bowles as a lame duck. I think that's pretty much what this looks like. Or, if Todd Bowles can save the season and impress, who knows? He could stick around for the entire rebuild. I mean, that's all within his power to see if that can happen. But I think anything is on the table at this point for the Buccaneers. I mean, they're sitting there in the situation with Tom Brady's contract. He has decided to turn in his retirement papers. Now, he could sign another one-year contract down the road to allow the Buccaneers to spread out that money, but I'm not sure if that's the plan right now. It's as we said yesterday, all these puzzle pieces are pointing towards more of a rebuild than anything else. They're not going after Derek Carr, right? So we'll go over some of the quarterback options here in a little bit. But I think the OC job is the big kind of linchpin to this thing. So what if, just what if, there's one offensive coordinator out there that's worked with Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady. Boy, if we could get that guy, a two-time NFL Coach of the Year, a Super Bowl champion, if we could get that guy as our OC, oh, wait a minute. He's already in the building. Would Bruce Arians come back and be the offensive coordinator? You're already paying the guy $4 million to be a consultant. I don't know if his health would allow it, but he's the one who put this whole thing together with Todd Bowles. Why not come back and secretly he's wanted to work with Blaine Gabbert, loves him some Blaine Gabbert. So could we see Blaine Gabbert and Kyle Trask fighting it out with Bruce Arians as the OC with a Godwin, Evans, maybe draft a first-round wide receiver, or and imagine if this Bucs team has a great draft like Kansas City did. Could there possibly be a way that this team could win the NFC South under that scenario? Now, this is far-fetched. I agree. It's far-fetched. But at this point, would you rather hire Scotty Montgomery to be your offensive coordinator? And then we're going to pair him with Gardner Minshew? We want that right now? I mean, if there's anything that would add some interest in life to this season, that would be it. That would be it. I know I'm completely off my rocker, but at this point, what do we have to look forward to? Teddy Bridgewater? Is that what we're looking at? Davis Mills, Sam Darnold, and Scotty Montgomery working together? What are we doing here?
I'm not gonna sit here and say that Bruce Arians and Blaine Gabbert sounds great. Or Bruce Arians and Kyle Trask sounds great. It doesn't. You know what this says? To me, all it is the same stagnant offense. Replace Tom Brady with Blaine Gabbert / Kyle Trask. That's ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. We have to move away from the Bruce Arians offense. I think Todd Bowles understands that. And also, and again, I know this is so far-fetched, like you said, but we'll break it down anyway. Bruce Arians would never upstage Todd Bowles. I don't know if you would agree with that, but I think he wouldn't upstage Todd Bowles. And coming back to the staff that Todd Bowles just fired, who are all of Bruce's guys, just doesn't seem like a plausible.
Yeah,
it seems a little
weird.
awkward there. That would seem a little awkward.
Bruce seems a little weird.
Yeah, regardless of who you believe or what, Bruce has made it to everyone to believe that Byron Leftwich was the one who was calling plays for 2 years. There was or for 3 years, actually. There was a reason for that. He didn't want the burden of having to do it with the health issues and everything. And I believe he had the health issue here in the fall as well. So I think a return to any coaching capacity for Bruce Arians is off the table to begin with. But I mean, hey, if nobody wants it, I mean, you said we got to look inside the building. I guess he counts as inside the building.
Right.
But I don't know. I just, again, none of these options to me are great right now. None of them
are great. They all seem desperate at this point. This feels like a really, really bad rebuild. I mean, this offensive coordinator position obviously it's critical. It's absolutely critical. Do you want to hand it over to some neophyte who's never called plays? And I'm not sitting here saying that Bruce Arians wants to do it, but I bet he's itching to show that there may be a little bit of life left in him. And I think he's in some ways, I don't know if embarrassed is the right word, but this is far-fetched, obviously, what I'm talking about. But I think it kind of encapsulates where the Bucs are right now. It's no man's land in terms of finding, someone, and they've obviously kept 2 of their offensive coaches in the running game and in the offensive line. So it's weird. It's completely weird here.
They're interviewing. Look at it. The guys they're interviewing right now. And again, I did my homework on a lot of these guys. Scotty Hamilton there, Thomas Brown, who we talked about on yesterday's show, who I admitted that I didn't ring a bell who it was. Went back and saw that, okay, he clearly works well with running backs. He was there at Wisconsin when Melvin Gordon ran for 2,500 yards. He worked with Sony Michel. He worked with Nick Chubb. And that got me kind of thinking, Todd Bowles has wanted to run the football. So maybe there's a theme here that they're trying to interview a lot of running back coordinators. I mean, I'm just trying to pick up on the themes here. It seems like there's a lot of running back coaches that Todd Bowles is getting into the building to interview right now. And that kind of tells me that's going to his philosophy of, I'm going to run the football. We want to be a running football team. Either it's that, or they've just accepted there's not a single quarterback coach or offensive coordinator already in the league that's going to take this job. And so you have to go to the next layer of assistant coaches, and that would be running back coaches. It's either one of those 2 things. Either way, it doesn't smell like a good thing to me.
Well, listen, if you're the running backs coach that's coaching Jonathan Taylor, what are you doing? So you think that, and no disrespect to Scotty Montgomery, I think that's his name, right? Scotty Montgomery, but Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, who else was there at Georgia at the time?
I want to say Todd Gurley might have been there.
Todd Gurley. Yeah, Todd Gurley was there as well. Jonathan Taylor. I mean, all these guys are great running backs. I don't know if he was the key to unlocking their talent, but and he, has he called plays since he was the OC at the University of Miami? Or no, that was Thomas Brown.
That was Thomas Brown.
Yeah, I'm getting all these guys confused. They're nobodies. And Byron Leftwich I know was bad, but we're going to bring in some guys that's never called plays before in the NFL. I don't know. It all seems a very, very
that's who all these candidates are going to be for the Bucs at this point.
Right.
There's nobody that's called plays in the NFL that is going to take this job at the moment, because what are you selling them on?
Right. Exactly.
And all you can sell is, and you can go and tell these guys in a meeting, hey, we want to go after so-and-so when we get to free agency. Well, we're a little bit of a way away from free agency. There's no insurances that you're going to get the guy that you want. So if you're a coach coming in, that's not really a sales pitch that I'm kind of all about. Just to try to think of another guy that I know the Bucs wanted when they did their first round of interviews, he turned them down, was Pep Hamilton, the OC for Houston. Well, now Houston, he's no longer under contract with Houston, I think, because D'Amico Ryans just brought in Slowick from San Francisco. So he had turned down the Bucs because he wanted to stay in Houston, because I think his son is some really big 5-star recruit and he wanted to see him play. Right. But now he's probably going to be unemployed. So does he go back to the Bucs now and say, "Hey, I'll consider it"? To me, that's the only coach as it stands right now that has called plays in the NFL before that you would have a shot at. That's it.
Yeah. And if you didn't want to come here before, maybe he just wants to sit out the season and watch his son play.
Yeah, that just might be important to him. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. He's probably collecting a pretty big check too. So it's not like he needs the money. So it's a terrible situation right now for the Bucs in terms of their OC. The only thing that remotely interests me would be a Bruce Arians, Blaine Gabbert, Kyle Trask fight and see what happens. That remotely interests me. Or would you like to bring in, is Davis Mills available? I mean, he showed a little bit of something in Houston. That might be a little interesting.
Turnover machine.
Right. Sam Darnold, he had some good moments with Carolina this year. Baker Mayfield went and dropped 51 after 1 week of practice with Sean McVay. Is Baker Mayfield someone you want to go after? I mean, he can clearly move. He can do some different things.
I think the Bucs are probably going to be whoever's the cheapest option. Who's the cheapest option of all these guys? And I feel like the cheaper option, you already mentioned his name, is Gardner Minshew. Yeah. I don't know why. I just get the feeling that Gardner Minshew, to me, might be the guy. I mean, we've been talking a little bit about Jacoby Brissett, but I'm almost getting the feeling that Jacoby Brissett's a little bit too high of a pedigree of a quarterback, if that's such a thing, or how this is going at the moment. Yeah. I don't know. Gardner Minshew, it just kind of seemed like it fits to me.
Yeah, well, listen, at least there'd be some personality there. At least there'd be some fun there.
Be fun, I guess.
The guy can move. He can spin it. All we know is it's just going to, at this point, it looks like a complete rebuild for the Buccaneers, and next season just could be a disaster. And there's a lot of options on the table. All those quarterbacks we just mentioned, I think, are in play. And who are they going to combine them with for an offensive coordinator, a neophyte offensive coordinator? It's as we look at this offseason already for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it's not very promising. And maybe, and I think if you have anything to look forward to, okay, if there's a rebuild on the horizon, which college quarterbacks could they possibly get this year in the draft that you could build around? Is sitting at 19, or maybe somebody that might fall to them in the second round. So I want to take a break, and I got a list of guys here that I think are interesting. I think they're interesting. I'm not projecting them as Super Bowl quarterbacks, but a few guys that are interesting and may be available. And is that the route that the Buccaneers want to go? I mean, do you really want to use a first round pick on a guy who you think is a long shot? Not sure you want to do that. So we'll take a break. We'll come back on the other side, and we'll take a look at the college quarterbacks that are in this draft that will be available, may be available for the Bucs at 19 or maybe later on in their draft. Quick break. We'll come back on the other side. We're brought to you by the Jeeves Law Group, JEEVES lawgroup.com. If you've been involved in an accident, have a class action lawsuit, or have you've had your car totaled and didn't get what you think you deserve, contact the Jeeves Law Group. That's JEEVES lawgroup.com. All right, back in 3. Stay with us. And welcome back to the JP Peterson Show, brought to you by Bay Area Modern Medical Center. Chris Lugo and his medical team over there will take great care of you. We had Chris on yesterday talking about the Super Bowl, and we did a great segment on sleep. So hopefully you got better sleep last night, Nick. I don't know if you did or not. All right. So let's look ahead. We talked about some of the retread quarterbacks that the Bucs could bring in terms of a free agent, and that's probably where one of your starters is going to come from, those guys that we mentioned. But an interesting name in this draft, and he won't be available to play next year, certainly by training camp, is Hendon Hooker, a Tennessee who lit it up last year big time. He averaged 285 yards per game, 27 touchdowns, and just 2 interceptions. The past couple of years has really developed into a great passer. 70%, 60, I think it's 69.3, almost 70% completion percentage. Very accurate quarterback. Now, a lot of people believe that he may fall to the 3rd or 4th round, which if he's there in the 3rd round, I think the Bucs got to snatch him and maybe even move up to try and get him. I think when you're in a rebuild, using a 1st or 2nd round pick on a guy, a 2nd round maybe, especially if you can maybe move up and maybe acquire another 2nd round pick in some type of trade negotiation. That might be because I think this guy can be a good pro. Nick, you watched him a lot. I watched him a lot in the SEC as well. He's a tremendous deep passer of the football. He would certainly work in a BA offense for sure. No risk it, no biscuit offense. He can run. He's got decent size. All the intangibles that you talk to people about, he checks all those boxes. And if he stays healthy, I think he's a high 1st round pick, maybe mid 1st round pick this year.
I was sold on him being a 1st round pick as I watched the season kind of unfold, and I think the injury has kind of taken him away from that stock. But to me, being a 3rd round, 4th round pick, given the production that we saw out of Hendon Hooker, and by the way, this is not your like 5'11" quarterback, right? That just doesn't have the size. It doesn't matter what he did in college. He's going to be a low round pick. He's 6'4", 220. Yeah. Last time I checked, that's typically like prototype of what you want out of an NFL quarterback. And I mean, go look at his numbers through his career: 80-12 quarterback or touchdown to interception ratio. 80-12.
That's phenomenal.
That's phenomenal. And then we talked about a lot on yesterday's show. You got to have a quarterback who can run the football. Well, I'm not going to say he's by no means is he Anthony Richardson or Lamar Jackson or one of those other guys, but 2,000 rushing yards in college, it's not bad.
No,
it's not bad. He can move. He can absolutely move. Everybody's obviously going to be paying attention to that because of the ACL injury, and you mentioned too about him not being ready for training camp, but this actually did happen yesterday. He had the brace on his knee removed this week. He was the most impressive quarterback apparently in interviews at the Senior Bowl, and he said he's expected to be ready to go for training camp in full. Yeah. So that's what Hendon Hooker is saying now. So I mean, I'm all over the Hendon Hooker train. I have so much confidence in the guy. I would take him in the 2nd round. I mean, I don't think that's too high because, again, if it wasn't for the injury, I think I'm talking about a 1st round talent. And if we're talking about guys who we think can step in the NFL and play right away, Anthony Richardson's got boatloads of potential, and that guy's going to go into the top 10, obviously, likely, off of what, 13 starts?
Yeah.
Very inconsistent. I have the guy here that started for 4 years, played at the highest level in the SEC, and did it and took Tennessee from the bottom all the way to the top.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't think it's that far-fetched to think that Hendon Hooker could go in the 2nd round, even with the injury.
Well, if I'm the Buccaneers and he's there in the 2nd round, I take him because, I mean, Matt, look at – and what did we say yesterday? Follow the Eagles template. What did they do? They got Jalen Hurts in the second round. They got him in the 2nd round. And, you only get 4 years with him, but that's a low contract. I mean, you're going to be able to – and look, the Bucs are as obviously in salary cap hell, right? Boy, if you can get 4 years out of a quarterback at that level, you can rebuild. You're saving $35-40 million right there. Other teams are paying their franchise quarterbacks.
And do you have any concern about the fact that he's 25 years old? Because that's another thing that docks him down in the eyes of talent evaluators. And again, just putting him next to Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson's like, is he even 21 yet? I don't even know.
The number that bothers me about Anthony Richardson is 54. That's his completion percentage.
Yeah.
I mean, it's awful.
But you know how the draft works, though. I mean, the boatload, the potential, which is like the worst word on. It's like the most dangerous word when it comes to a quarterback. Hendon Hooker's 25. I mean, you could look at it like, okay, well, naturally, and I think this was the Kenny Pickett effect last year. Now you can argue if that worked out. Played a lot of football, older. They're going to step right in. Probably not turn the ball over as much. Now Kenny Pickett did turn the ball over and had those lumps. Baker Mayfield also was very experienced. We saw what happened there. So I guess I'm trying to think of an example in the past of a quarterback that's been near this age that has come into the league right away, and it's kind of worked out. I mean, the obvious one, I guess, is Joe Burrow. Yeah. And I think he was 23, 24 when he came in, but he might be the outlier.
In this situation, I like the maturity. I like the maturity that it brings because you're coming into a veteran football team. You're ready to play. He's played a lot of football. He's kind of a Brock Purdy type. I like these guys that have a lot of reps in college because you have a huge sample size. This guy is an accurate passer. And if there's one thing that we know translates into the NFL from college, it's accuracy, right? That is, and it's an absolute must-have in the NFL when the difference between a pick six and a touchdown is about half a yard, right? I mean, accuracy is everything in this league. And I love watching him not only throw the ball deep, but just those deep ends that he throws a great deep in with great anticipation. I think the world of this kid. When I watch him play football, and he's got a quick release, and he's a quick, very decisive guy is what I'm saying. When he wants to run and he goes, it's quick. I think Jalen Hurts is a different type of quarterback. I think Hendon Hooker is a much more natural thrower of the football, but I think they're similar in their leadership styles. You mentioned the interviews at the Senior Bowl. Very, very impressive. So you got an older kid coming into what is a veteran team. And if what we're hearing in all these ACL injuries, by the way, that used to be a 9 to 12 month injury. Well, we just saw what happened with Ryan Jensen, and all these players are using stem cells now. Now, Hendon Hooker had surgery, but you add the stem cells to the surgery, you have a faster recovery. So it's conceivable that he could be ready. And here's the thing. He doesn't have to be ready for the Buccaneers, right? They can start a season with Kyle Trask and bring Hendon Hooker along slow, right? Why not? Why push?
If it's a full, if it ends up being a full rebuild and that's the direction you're going,
you don't want to rush it.
There's no rush for Hendon Hooker. There's zero rush. In fact, I feel like it works out more often than not with a lot of these guys who are maybe not top 5 picks, who kind of wait a little bit, and then they come in at some point during the season. I feel like there's like a lot of good examples of that working out rather than just throwing that guy into the fire.
Yeah.
And see what happens. Because what happens if you throw him into the fire and it doesn't work out, and then you got to take him out, it's hard to recover after that. It's very hard to recover like that. Zach Wilson is a great example of that. It's hard for that guy to recover now that he's been pulled in and out and in and out. You don't want to do that. So if he's not ready to go, or you want to get a longer look, if you want to see if everybody wants to see Kyle Trask play at the beginning of the year, if it was those two guys in the quarterback room, then I guess that's what you do.
Yeah. And I think Hendon Hooker excites the fan base. I think that's a kid that you look at and you say, now this guy could be a good one. He could be a really good one. If you can find your franchise quarterback in the second round, that sets you up for years and years and years to come. And this rebuild may be a lot faster than you think. I look at Cameron Ward, the kid from Washington State, is coming out as a sophomore, got really, really good tools. He's more of a high ceiling guy, but also a low floor guy too. He could be much of a bust. Anthony Richardson, I think will slip. I do think he will slip in the draft. Even though I think the accuracy is going to really scare people off. And I don't want them to draft Anthony Richardson. I don't think he's going to be a great professional quarterback. And just from a mental standpoint, I don't think he handled it well at Florida. The accuracy really, really bothers me. He's a great runner. But I just don't see him translating as a great NFL quarterback. I could be wrong.
I want to really think that he will, because again, it's like you're almost blinded by the highs. You're blinded by the crazy runs in 2021 in limited time. You're blinded by the Utah game.
Yeah.
You're blinded by, I think, the Tennessee game. He played really well. And then and again against Florida State, I thought he balled out and kept Florida in that game. I mean,
well, he did in the first half. The second half, I think he went 13 or 14 straight incompletions.
There were some rough parts, but I thought it was still one of his, again, comparing it to the roller coaster that the season was. I did think the second half of his season was a lot better. It's just, obviously, you give that guy 14 more starts in a college setting, and it's a completely different deal we're talking about. But as now, you're drafting literally off tools.
Right.
I think that's dangerous to do in the NFL.
And there's always been, in talking to some people around the program, Anthony's had some issues with hangers on, the crowd around him, Gainesville, he grew up there. Tampa's way too close to Gainesville for my liking for that whole deal. So there's a lot of intangibles that scare me off about Anthony Richardson. He is a phenomenal athlete. I mean, you can see him, running in these new RPO driven offenses that are in the NFL, which are, that's going to be the future of this league. He's Cam Newton. He looks a lot like Cam Newton. And, Cam Newton went to a Super Bowl, won an MVP. You can do a lot worse with a quarterback selection. So I think, it's going to be, and I think his offseason workouts are going to be phenomenal, but I think the interviews are going to be more important for him. And the Bucs will have to be really, really solid with who he is as a man and can he lead other players. It's not just about, being able to handle being a quarterback yourself and handle your business, but you've got to bring others along with you. And I think it takes a really, really special human being to do that, like a Jalen Hurts. You just see the character right off the top, like a Joe Burrow. These guys, older guys will follow them. I don't know if Anthony Richardson's that type of guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Again, I just don't have enough sample size to get a read off of it.
Yeah.
I don't have a good read on Anthony Richardson.
But why take the chance? Why take the chance when you have hell, I'd take Hendon Hooker at 19 before I take Anthony Richardson. 100%.
I would, yeah. I mean, yeah, I would have said that before the injury. So yeah. I think another team. I think there's going to be another team again that's in the top 10, probably at number 9. Whoever has that pick number 9, if Carolina sits there with it, I think they would take him maybe. I think somebody else is going to go that route. So I don't even think it's going to be in the Bucs' control at that point. But even then, I think that's just too much of a risk. And I think Jason knows that. Yeah. I really do. And to get a quarterback that's inaccurate after being around Jameis for 5 years and waiting for that to stick around, tough sell to me. Tough sell for that.
And I think this is interesting. So if he's progressing with his knee injury and he thinks he's going to be ready by training camp, I mean, that's 5 months away, right?
Yeah.
So he'll be, when did he injure himself? In late November?
It was late November, yeah.
Late November. So December, you're looking at, almost 8 months, 9 months. Ryan Griffin came back from Ryan Jensen came back from a much more severe injury in 6 months or less. So if he was a first round pick before the injury and he's going to be healthy pretty soon, would you take him at 19?
I would have the discussion.
Yeah.
I would have the discussion. I mean, obviously, I think the Bucs are going to know as we get closer to draft day, and obviously on draft night, they're going to absolutely know of kind of be able to gauge the other teams of where Hendon Hooker's value really is.
Yeah.
Right. I think teams probably have more of a sense of that, and I think maybe the public will get a sense of that then. Right now, the fact that from what you're hearing is everything's 3rd or 4th round pick, to me, it almost seems unlikely at this point that he's going to get in that 1st round. because there's nothing he can do from this point
Right.
physically to get himself in there. I think the second round, I would absolutely feel comfortable, but getting him in the first round, I think you might just be reaching because I don't see the demand there for Hendon Hooker.
Well, I listen. I read that that he's now projected third or fourth round. I'm like, why? This is he didn't have his leg did not get amputated. He's if he was a first round talent, this is an ACL. This is not a severe injury that's career threatening. It's not.
Yeah, and I also don't know how much it plays into the process, but one of the last games before he had the ACL tear was his biggest matchup of the season against Georgia. And if you recall, the Tennessee offense, the number one offense in the country, scored 6 points. Now it's Georgia's defense. You almost have given everybody a pass, but listen, when you go to the NFL, everything's going to be a step up from that Georgia defense.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that game to me kind of like maybe pumped the brakes on some people. I know it's just one game on like a 2-season sample size, but it could be anything.
Yeah, I got to go back and look at that tape because that'll be one to look forward to. Because if he's under horrible duress the entire time, you kind of take it with
I think I recall it was a rainy day too, maybe.
Yeah, it was. It's that you have a big enough sample size from Hendon Hooker that you got a really good feel for who he is. So I don't really think those draft workouts leading up to it would have told me much anyway.
Yeah.
So I'd rather look at his tape.
And truthfully, we talked obviously a lot here about Hendon Hooker, and I don't know about you. I don't know if you have any other names. I'm just not really enthused with everything after that.
No,
there's nothing that gives me to me the Max Dugans of the world, the Stetson Bennett's of the world, the Aiden O'Connells of the world, and so on and on. I'm getting so far down the list here of guys that I just don't think will ever be NFL quarterbacks, starting quarterbacks at least. I think clearly there's 3 guys who are going to be taken in the top 5, maybe a fourth, and Anthony Richardson going in the first round, and then Hendon Hooker somewhere in that 2 to 3 round territory, and then everybody else I don't even consider an option that you'd want. Yeah,
but I would definitely think hard about pulling the trigger on Hendon Hooker. Definitely in the second. If he's there in the second round, it's a must take. It's an absolute must take. If you're the Buccaneers, I think he has a really high ceiling. All right, we'll take another break. When we come back, a couple more notes on the Super Bowl, the call that people are still talking about, and is Patrick Mahomes now the next Tom Brady? And is that what the NFL really wants anyway? We'll talk about those 2 subjects might be related, by the way. We'll talk about that when we come back. We're brought to you by Italiano Insurance and the Golden Diamond Source. Hey, guys, it's Valentine's Day, in case you didn't you forgot. It's Valentine's Day. So if you did forget, you better head your ass down to the Golden Diamond Source, lickety split. And they're doing their gift card match, so you can bring $500 and get 2 gift cards to give to whoever, or $1,000, whatever you want to do. It's the Golden Diamond Source, and they have a great staff there. You'll be in and out in 5 minutes, and she'll think you were there last week. So don't show her the receipt. So head on down to the Gold and Diamond Source, 3800 Omerton Road, always online at thegoldendiamondsource.com. All right, back in 3 with some Super Bowl hangovers. Stay with us. And welcome back to the JP Peterson Show on this Valentine's Tuesday. I hope you guys remember to get your honey something nice. I got Ashley's beautiful premium red roses this weekend, and she left them here. Didn't even take them home.
That's brutal.
Brutal. But I'll bring them to her again and present them to her again here on this Valentine's Day, and so she'll love them even more the second time.
In 24 days, I'll be giving Casey the gift of my last name. So,
well, there we go.
I think I'm good this Valentine's Day. I think I'm good.
Whoa. You haven't done anything for Valentine's Day?
Not really, no. She actually came home the other night, last night, and she said I had a surprise dinner, and she made sushi and everything, and we had a nice little Valentine's Day dinner at home.
She made sushi?
Made sushi, so there you go.
Homemade sushi?
Homemade sushi.
Wow, that's impressive. You got a good one there.
Yes, I do. Somebody's got to cook.
Somebody's got to cook. Well, I think that's a big mistake. You still better do something for Valentine's Day. You better.
I'll always get something together. Yeah, I'll always get something together.
Or you may not be getting married in 24 days. So, all right. Super Bowl done and gone. I think a lot of the post Super Bowl stuff. I watched a lot of stuff yesterday. Still a lot of talk about the bad call at the end of the game. I still can't get over the PR campaign by the NFL to whitewash this thing into definitely a penalty. I did finally see a lot of people yesterday saying it's not a penalty. It's rarely a penalty. You did not impede him, Juju Schuster, whatsoever. He never broke stride. You can put your hands on guys. You just can't impede them. And he never impeded him. Yeah. He got 2 yards wide open.
Also, if it's possible, I'm more upset after having more time to digest this because, again, I watched all the shows. I took in more information. And I think it might have been Jason McIntyre on The Herd that said this, that there was a total of, I think, 60-something pass plays total in that game between the two teams. And there was one pass interference / holding penalty the entire game. One. And it was that one.
Yeah.
That almost makes it even worse. That makes it like completely phony at that point.
Yes, because you let him play.
In the game is the only holding / pass interference penalty that was called when I could go watch all the other 60 whatever plays and probably pick out the exact same thing happening when the refs aren't even looking.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
It's egregious, and what makes it even more suspicious to me is the coordinated media campaign to whitewash the whole thing. I've never in my life heard a player in a controversial situation like that just cost his team the Super Bowl, the effing Super Bowl. And you get to the locker room and he's like, yeah, I did it. Yeah, I did it. It was a hold. No question about it. Never seen that before in my life. I've been covering this sport for almost 50 years. I've never seen it. I've seen guys like, I can't talk about the officiating. I've seen them say it was a complete BS call. I've seen them say, I'm not going to talk about it. It just was. I've never seen them go, yeah, I definitely held the guy with no emotion whatsoever. Yeah, I definitely held the guy.
Yeah, and by the way, completely kill the entire argument that Eagles fans will have on this for years.
Right.
So Bradbury,
I'm sure somebody went to him and said, listen, man, it's not about the NFL. If you don't cop to this, Philadelphia is going to burn to the ground. This is for personal safety of half the city of Philadelphia. Please just say you did it. We'll take care of you, partner. There'll be a little something in the Christmas bonus, whatever. It's, I've never seen anything like that before. And the coach as well. And, and maybe that was a good thing because I think there was definitely a possibility that city could have burned to the ground. I had no question in my mind. So maybe it was best that they did that, but I'm never going to say that was a good call. It wasn't holding. It was terrible timing. You haven't called anything all game. Now, it wasn't the reason they lost.
No.
It's not the reason they lost, but it ended the game. Yeah. And we didn't get to see Jalen Hurts,
It's what I'm saying. Selfishly as a fan, I just wanted to see a good ending.
Right.
That's all I'm asking for. I could give a crap if the Eagles got screwed. I could give a crap, right? In fact, if it was going to happen to a fan base, I mean, that's fine by me. I just wanted to see a good ending to a fantastic football game. It could have been a legendary football game.
Yeah, and listen to these. We talked a little bit about this yesterday, but put it a little bit in historical perspective. Jalen Hurts had the finest stat line in Super Bowl history, you could argue. 15 carries, 70 yards, Super Bowl record for a quarterback, scored 3 touchdowns, tying the record for any player regardless of position, 20 points with the 2-point conversion, also tying a record for any player regardless of position, completed 27 of 38 passes for 304 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. His 41.16 fantasy points, the second most in Super Bowl history, narrowly trailing the 41.9 of Steve Young in 1995. I mean, that's unbelievable. What a performance by Jalen Hurts. He didn't deserve to lose the game, but he also had a fumble that may have cost them the game. I mean, that game, because it was, 21-7 at that point, right?
Yeah.
And they had the football. They go down and get a field goal or maybe even a touchdown. It's 28-7 at halftime. That game is over. And it's not like the Chiefs forced it, really forced that fumble. That was, it was unfortunate. The Eagles, I don't want to say they played, but their defense was just awful in the second half. And that's a lot about Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid. But that was a championship performance. And, if you combine the calls that we saw against Cincinnati for the Chiefs and that call right there, if you wanted to, and Jason Whitlock wrote a piece about this yesterday as well, if you wanted to make the case that the NFL wanted Patrick Mahomes to win this Super Bowl and take the torch from Tom Brady, that's the narrative that they wanted out there, you'd have a lot of people, conspiracy theorists, believing in that, given how bad those calls were in those situations. That's all I'm saying. If NFL, and Roger Goodell wants to sit there and say this has been a great year for officiating, he actually said that with a straight face. It's been a great year for officiating. This is the gaslight world that we live in. I felt like I was watching the ABC Evening News. I mean, it's just gaslight city.
Unless it affects the bottom line of Sir Commissioner Roger Goodell and the NFL as a whole, nothing is going to change. Guess how many people watched this Super Bowl?
Yeah, how many?
The numbers are in. 113 million on average.
Wow.
On average, 113. This is the third most watched TV show of all time, is what we saw last night. Okay? Those are the numbers and the things that matter to Roger Goodell. Yep. I don't think he's really concerned about anything that goes on with officiating.
Yep.
I think it's absolutely over his head, to be honest with you. So I just think it's never going to change. It's never going to change.
Well, I think, we had a conversation on Peter Blake's show last night, the Sports Web. I was on with Henry the Greek, one of the big handicappers in the Chicago area. And, we were talking about, listen, there have been betting scandals, as you know, right? Premier League, the biggest leagues in the world have had betting scandals, right? The NFL at some point is going to have a betting scandal. There's just too much money involved, too many players involved. A lot of these players aren't making a whole hell of a lot of money, relatively speaking to the money that's wagered on these teams. These referees don't make a hell of a lot of money. And it's going to happen at some point. I mean, if not, the NFL is the only major institution in this country that's not completely corrupt, to be honest with you, if we're to believe this. And when you have this situation, the bad calls in these big games, it happened in last year's Super Bowl as well. It happened in the AFC Championship game, right? It happened in this Super Bowl. The entire season was riddled with calls that just made absolutely no sense whatsoever. Even with replay, they're blowing calls. So, I mean, to think the NFL is just beyond reproach and everything is on the up and up, it's just, it's hard to believe. It's like believing we're the only species in the universe, right? The numbers are overwhelming. There's too many solar systems. There's too many planets. And they're all coming here anyway, clearly, So the aliens are here and the NFL is corrupt. Let's just be honest. If we've learned anything this week, that's what we've learned.
The aliens are here. I'm sorry. I had to just keep thinking about that. You had me really going and thinking about all the solar stuff.
Just have a lot of fun. Just have a little. No, my point is, everybody's like, "Oh, that couldn't happen in the NFL."
Yeah, that's me.
Happens everywhere. It happens in every institution we've in our lives that we open up. We now know is corrupt. And
I just think
biggest league in this world.
Whoever threw that flag, I just think clearly, when you put on that shirt, when you put on that zebra, it's in you. At some point, you are going to try to get involved in this game where you shouldn't be. It happens.
What's the name of that ref that threw that?
I don't even know. I'm surprised that his name hasn't even gone viral. I don't even know.
Oh, interesting.
I don't even know.
Interesting. We don't even know his name. Huh. Okay.
It seems like somebody that was. Here it is, Carl Cheffers.
I think wasn't he the lead ref? He didn't actually throw the flag though, right?
Carl Cheffers, right?
Yeah, I think he was the lead ref.
Who was the ref? Okay, so he's not the one who threw it then.
Right, he's not the one who threw it, but it's his crew. Whatever.
His crew.
We move on. It wasn't the reason they lost the game. The reason they lost the game was the fumble, that mistake, the bad punt that cost them that return. By the way, the Kadarius Toney, a hell of a return. He broke 2 tackles that were ridiculous. And the Eagles' special teams have been bad all year, and it bit them in the ass. So, listen, great Super Bowl, marred by a terrible flag and a terrible call. And that, to me, is going to be one of the narratives of this past season, because the officiating has been talked about way too much this year. And maybe it's because there's more money being wagered on it. The more people are paying attention to it, the more people are pissed off.
I think it is believable, and I'm usually not I'm not the conspiracy guy at all, but I do think it is believable if there was a scenario out there that referees were in on the whole betting thing. That to me is a plausible scenario, and I think I talked about that. Just considering the fact that they're not even full-time employees, right? And we don't even know what their salaries are. But when you hear other quarterbacks come out and say, "Hey, the best refs in the games aren't even reffing anymore because of the money,"
right?
Like, I mean, that to me is like the most plausible scenario if you really went down that rabbit hole.
I think their salaries are like in the 200,000 range for a part-time job, not too shabby.
I mean, sign me up,
Yeah, but still, I mean, compared to what gamblers make, and if you can affect a game like that, I mean, there's billions of dollars being wagered on these games. So I'm just saying the NFL needs to remove any appearance of impropriety. And I don't think they're doing a great job of that right now, to be quite honest. The fact that these referees are being, are in contact with the league office, a central office in real time in their earpiece, it bothers me. It bothers me. They could easily get rid of that. They don't need to do that. There doesn't need to be some central command talking to them. You just don't need it. You don't need it. Why do it?
Oh, goodness.
Seriously, that's a question I have. You have competent officials on premise. You can have a competent official in the booth making quick replay judgment. Why do they need to be connected to New York? What's the purpose of that? It just raises too many questions. You could easily say, well, because they want to control every game and control every narrative. They want to be Vince McMahon with the little puppeteers, and do whatever they want to do to whatever games. And when you see ridiculous calls like this, it brings it into question. Stop doing it. That's what I'm saying.
Why is it always in every big game too?
Yes.
To me, it's never. Is it ever in? Is it week 6?
Yeah, it is. But we don't hear about it as much.
Yeah, but still though, maybe that's true. You don't hear about it, but to me, I don't ever see it when it's week 6, 1:00, Jets versus Lions.
Right.
I just don't see these things happen. I see it when it's the championship games, and in this case, I see it when it's the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
If you think about it, between the missed call at the end and everything that happened with the field, the NFL gets an F.
Yeah.
They get an F. Regardless of the 59 minutes that were great in that game, the NFL itself got an F in that Super Bowl, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think they did too. By the way, the Commanders are going to interview Eric Bieniemy and Greg Roman. Oh, you know, we didn't play that audio yesterday. Terry Bradshaw, you wrote about this. I meant to talk about this yesterday. So Terry Bradshaw tells Andy Reid to waddle on up here, and then tells him to go eat a cheeseburger. And evidently, that was a story you wrote about on Outsider.com.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people outraged over the comments by Terry Bradshaw.
2 old fat guys giving it to each other, and that's outrage.
Yes, but there was also just a mix of people that were just like, Terry Bradshaw is struggling through this interview. Does Fox not have anybody else they can have in this moment, given the roster that they had there?
Where's Aaron Andrews to ask a good question, right?
Or Tom Rinaldi, they're both right there. I don't know. I mean, I will say Terry Bradshaw is 74 years old. I think he had announced before he was going through a cancer. He had a cancer diagnosis, and he doesn't seem as sharp this year than maybe in years past. So
yeah,
I'm not going to completely.
He seems a little bit more curmudgeonly too.
Yeah. He's older, I understand, but, to people that don't know the relationship, I guess, between Andy Reid and Terry Bradshaw, you hear somebody say that to a person who's obviously a little bit more in weight. I don't even know how to put this in a PC way.
He's fat. He's fat.
Your words, not mine. Words, not mine, but telling him to waddle on over here on national TV in front of God knows how many people. It probably is not the smartest thing. I wouldn't say it, but Terry Bradshaw is going to a loose cannon. I mean, we've always known that. All right, I'm going to cut in here real quick. Hope y'all been enjoying the conversation we had. JP is he's taking care of some business out of town today, so I've been kind of flying solo here, kind of monitoring the show, but we did have breaking news that just came out about 5 minutes ago concerning the Bucs search for the OC. They did not hire anybody, but Todd Monken is off the list now because he's taking the Ravens offensive coordinator job. The Ravens have officially announced that today. So we're going to take a quick break here, pay some of these bills, and then come back and we're going to break down this and what this means for the Bucs and who's on this list, because the Bucs list is starting. There's a lot of guys who have been saying no to them. I don't know how many guys really want this job, so we'll break it all down when we come back.
JP here for Italiano Insurance. If you've started a side hustle during COVID and the business has grown, well, you need business insurance, because if you get sued, you could lose all your personal wealth if you're not properly protected. That's right. Your home, your savings, everything could go. So get protected now. Call the great agents at Italiano Insurance, 813-877-7799, and a real human will answer the phone and get you protected. If you haven't shopped your business insurance in a while, you could be overpaying by thousands. One customer had their golf buddy handling his business insurance, then called Italiano to shop it around, and they saved him $26,000 a year. Yeah. So call 813-877-7799 or go to ItalianoInsurance.com. Italiano Insurance, protecting all the pieces of your life for over 60 years. The boys are back. The PGA Tour's Valspar Championship returns March 16th to the 19th with 4 days of incredible golf plus a host of activities that make it Tampa Bay's hottest spring sports ticket. There is more to the Valspar than just great golf. It's the Hooters Owl's Nest, the Snake Pit Club, accessible by premium tickets, and other great venues throughout the course for those with ground tickets. And new in 2023 is the Rooftop, a new prestigious venue at the 18th green with music, food, and fun. Plus, you never know who you're going to see at the Rooftop. Tickets are on sale now at ValsparChampionship.com for all tournament days, both grounds tickets and premium ticket options. You don't want to miss the 2023 Valspar Championship. Attention, if you are home shopping or looking for a refinance, and even if you already have the approval letter, you must call my man Scott Fitzgerald at American Mortgage Services. Scott has a brand new program available in the greater Tampa Bay area called the Community Advantage Loan Program. Get this, no money down, no mortgage insurance, no points, no origination fee, purchase or refinance, and loan amounts up to $647,000. Now, there are some application requirements. It must be a single-family home, 1 unit, primary residence, and have a minimum 640 credit score. The program only applies to certain neighborhoods, so you have to call to find out if you qualify. So call Scott Fitzgerald at 813-294-7595 or email him at scott@amstampa.com. Now, even if you don't qualify for that program, Scott will shop your loan around, get you the best rates, and won't charge you the huge upfront fees. And if you've had issues with your bank calling you back, Scott will return calls immediately or at least the same day. 813-294-7595 or email him, scott@amstampa.com. Scott Fitzgerald, MLS 386722, American Mortgage Services, 1000 North Ashley Drive, Suite 1020, Tampa, Florida. Hey, folks, it's still engagement season, and where better to get that special ring than the Gold and Diamond Source. The Gold and Diamond Source has the largest selection of engagement rings in the country, a literal jewelry supercenter with 30 times the inventory of any normal jeweler. You don't have to wait to spend any extra time waiting for them to bring something in. They have everything right there in-house, so why go anywhere else? And you can get up to 15% off this January if you buy something with the birthstone, which is garnet. Garnet and Gold, Florida State, get something for your favorite Seminole. And let's not forget the Emily collection from Emily Johnson Weintraub. Very affordable, real gold and diamond jewelry, always stylish and unique. Emily has created this fashion-forward gold, diamond, and gemstone jewelry line ideal for everyday wear. Each piece is designed to enhance your look by featuring eye-catching, modern geometrical shapes. Really unique stuff. Got to check it out. And, of course, Julie and Steve Weintraub, great benefactors here in the local community. So let's keep it local. And you can get 0% financing for up to 5 years. Get a big ring for a little price. It's the Golden Diamond Source, 3800 Omerton Road, always online at thegoldendiamondsource.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's rock.
This is FanStream Sports with JP.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show here on a Tuesday. Nick riding solo today with JP out of town, doing some other business. I mentioned before we came back that I was cutting in here because we had an update concerning a candidate that the Bucs were looking to fill their offensive coordinator position with, and that is Todd Monken. If you've listened to this show, if you listened to Scott Reynolds over at Pewter Report, then you would know that Todd Monken was pretty highly thought of in regards to the Bucs to try to fill this offensive coordinator position and replace Byron Leftwich. But things were a lot different when Monken's name was first floated here, because obviously Tom Brady was still a Buccaneer. We still were kind of on the fence if he was going to return for a 24th season. Clearly that didn't happen. And the reality is, and this goes for the reason why the Bucs to me there's nothing they can offer like a quarterback like Derek Carr. There's just right now, it's Kyle Trask is the only quarterback that you have on the roster. That's it. So if you're trying to get an offensive coordinator in here, and I know we had the discussion earlier in the first hour about Kyle Trask, and I'm going to get to Trask a little bit in the quarterback position a little bit later, more deeper. But Kyle Trask is an unknown. And if you're Todd Monken, you were just at Georgia winning 2 national championships. You're the highest paid coordinator in college football. The Bucs, from a quarterback standpoint, have nothing to offer you right now. And when you compare it to where he went with Baltimore, yes, they're going through some contract issues with Lamar Jackson, but Lamar Jackson is an MVP. He's won games in this league, a lot of games, actually. I think he's got the highest winning percentage of any quarterback since he became the starter in Baltimore in 2019. So that's a lot more desirable position with Todd Monken. Now, should it be this difficult for the Bucs, though, to get an OC in here? I would tell you that the Bucs definitely did not envision it would be that way, even with the quarterback uncertainty. But as James put here in a comment, sad state of affairs. If healthy, they have 3 Pro Bowlers on the offensive line, which include Shaq Mason. You have 2 potential Hall of Fame receivers, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and you can't hire an OC. There's still a lot to like there on the offense, like James said. And you could throw Rashad White in there, who he's not an upper echelon running back in the National Football League, but he's a really good hand, I think, back there to have, and there's a lot of room for growth. The offensive line, we already talked about, it was the downfall of this team this past year. And next year, assuming those guys are going to be healthy, you're going to have 3 Pro Bowlers on that offensive line. We'll see what happens with the left tackle position with Tristan Wirfs maybe sliding over there if you cut Donovan Smith. So there's still a lot to like there. So it is kind of fascinating to me that they still have not been able to get an OC to say yes to this job, because they're on interview number 10, I believe. And you have to think that a lot of these guys have probably turned them down at this point. And clearly the Bucs did not envision that happening. But again, it's just another sign that 2023 is going to be either a transition year, a rebuild year, which as a Bucs fan, I know a lot of Bucs fans probably have PTSD from all the years they've been told this, the rebuild years. It's not fun. It's not fun to sit here in mid-February and not have an OC, not have an offensive staff really filled out at all yet, have quarterback uncertainty, and having to be talking about the NFL draft and throwing darts at a board to find a quarterback. It's not fun. We've been down this road so many times, which is why I say for the people that really were hell-bent on moving on from Tom Brady, congratulations. How's it feel? You got what you wished for. Life without Tom Brady is not looking great right now. It's amazing the difference that he made in making this job very desirable to now he's gone. And it's one of the least desirable jobs it looks like in the NFL right now. Now, and again, the Bucs are not the only one in this predicament. I believe there's 7 or 8 other teams that are looking for offensive coordinators, and you have one team that's still looking for a head coach in Arizona. I mean, they have Kyler Murray. And again, if you've listened here, I'm not the biggest fan of Kyler Murray. I understand he's a really big talent, but I don't see the leadership there. And it seems like a lot of head coaches, candidates are really kind of hesitant about working with Kyler Murray based on everything they've seen and everything they've heard the last kind of 2 years there in Arizona. So you're kind of waiting for that shoe to drop a little bit. And now there's other teams that are still looking for offensive coordinators. Obviously, Indianapolis goes get Shane Steichen, the Eagles offensive coordinator, to be their head coach. Now you see Eric Bieniemy's taking interviews with Washington, I believe, to be under Ron Rivera. So you're going to see a lot more movement this week. But, right now, though, it's hard to be a little bit optimistic right now with the Bucs. I will say, though, one of them, again, another intriguing name that I believe they're interviewing today is Dave Canales, who is the quarterback's coach for the Seattle Seahawks. 41 years old. He's been in the Seahawks since 2010. So he's been along with Pete Carroll, and he was at USC with Pete Carroll as well before he got there. So he's been around one of the greatest head coaches, college and pro, that we've seen in Pete Carroll for a long time. He's worked with Russell Wilson, the really good version of Russell Wilson. And this year he worked wonders with Geno Smith, who wins Comeback Player of the Year after a decade removed from him being drafted, goes on to have a Pro Bowl type season, takes Seattle to the playoffs, he put up a fight for a little bit there against San Francisco. So Dave Canales, to me, is a name, I guess, to keep an eye on here. It was noted in the report that he is a serious candidate for Tampa Bay. And obviously coming here, you're working with a defensive head coach. You can bring your own system. You can call your own plays. There's a lot more freedom there, right? If it works out okay, then maybe you can be a head coach in the next couple of years. But the problem is always going to be is that Todd Bowles is viewed as the lame duck head coach. And that, I hate to say that because, again, we've talked about it. Todd Bowles is a great man, and he's the kind of guy that you want in the building, certainly as a defensive coordinator. But from a head coach standpoint, there's almost a 90-game sample size to go off of with Todd Bowles. And a lot of it's not been good. And if the perception is that he's a lame duck head coach, and the perception is that Jason, like, if things go south this year, it's a what have you done for me lately business, that he won't be the guy here after this season as well. It's hard to attract candidates to really come here. I think that's something that the Bucs probably didn't envision happening. And again, as Chris Cole put right here, it's dysfunction junction. It is. It's malfunction junction there on 75, if you know what I'm talking about, in there in the mornings. That's exactly what the Bucs look like right now. And we thought that with Tom Brady coming here, that kind of this would, on the other side of it, at least we would have a much better culture going into it. But right now, I mean, there's questions about the culture based on what we saw last year. There's certainly questions about the head coach and the leadership of this team moving forward. And you have questions at the quarterback position. So the main things that keep a franchise functionable and keep you kind of in the hunt, the Bucs are kind of struggling at right now. They really are. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, there's a lot of teams that are looking for offensive coordinators, and you're probably going to see some of those fill out this week. But again, if you were looking for one of these big names, once Tom Brady retired and it was clear that the Bucs were not going to go after a Derek Carr, they didn't want to take that chance and have to pay him $30 to $40 million if he's not the guy they really want, right? There was no sense in delaying the inevitable and pushing that money down the line if they didn't think they could compete this year. So I think that's kind of where the Bucs are at right now. It's going to be it's looking more and more like a rebuild transition type season. And again, we talked about this with JP, and I know he's very adamant about having an OC that's called plays before. That's not as big of a concern for me. And I think somebody in here said it as well. It's not much of a big concern because there's a lot of these guys who have never called plays before, and they got opportunities and they've worked wonders. I mean, Mike McDaniel had called plays until 2021, and you saw him this year and he turned out all right. Zach Taylor's another example. Hadn't called plays for a long time. He gets the opportunity. He turned out all right. Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota, same thing. So I think that is kind of the trend of where the NFL's going. So it doesn't. That wouldn't scare me as much of getting somebody who hasn't called plays, because they got to start somewhere. And realistically, the Bucs right now is one of those situations where they would probably end up having to start out at, because it's not a desirable situation for a lot of the top flight OCs, such as a Todd Monken and some of these other guys. So, but yeah, that's where the Bucs are. Just wanted to cut in right there and get to everything that happened with Todd Monken going to Baltimore. Lonnie, I think you're trying to put this on the. I love you always relate things to the Rays. I blame all this on Kevin Cash pulling Blake Snell in Game 6. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to blame you. One of the worst decisions that any manager has ever made in any sport, in my opinion. But obviously, those are the Rays. Can the Rays sign some Martian talent? We'll get to the Rays. We'll have some more audio here coming from the Rays. Here in a little bit. And then I wanted to get to the Kyle Trask stuff here, because I was going back and forth with Jordan here in the comments about Kyle Trask. I'm trying to find your comment, Jordan. 1 second. Here it is. Everyone straight disrespects Kyle Trask by not giving him a chance. He was drafted in the second round and put up better stats in 2020 with the Gators than Burrow did in his historic 19th season on an extremely less than talented team with the Gators. Straight disrespectful to not call him the starter of this team. If we are throwing around all these college names from this season, how about look to 2020 and Kyle Trask? I understand. I hear you, Jordan, where you're coming from there. And this is a personal opinion, obviously. I watched nearly every game that Kyle Trask played at Florida. It's very impressive, but we know that college success doesn't always translate to pro success. It doesn't. And there's a lot of examples to go off of. I mean, I'll just put a Baker Mayfield out there who had as much college success as anybody, and his NFL career has certainly not gone to plan of how he thought it was going to be. And now he might be your Bucs quarterback this year. Who knows? Right? Yeah, he was really good in college, but even then, if you go back and look at some of the tape and you look at some of the film on Kyle Trask, the zip was not there, right? There's really not a lot of zip. And I think that was my first thing that jumped out to me going to some of these practices in 2021 when he came in the building. You watch Brady throw, and obviously even at 44 at the time, he's still slinging it. Even Blaine Gabbert, you see there's zip. And then you see Kyle Trask, and it's definitely not the same coming out of the hand. And I'm not saying that's all that means he's a great, that doesn't that makes or breaks you being a quarterback. But it matters, I think, in the NFL as the speed continues to change and get faster in the NFL, and the windows continue to get tighter, and you've got to be able to fit them in the small areas. And I don't know if Kyle Trask has the velocity to do that. So that's my concern there. My other concern, and we've talked about this a lot on the show as well lately, is it's 2023. We just watched the Super Bowl, and all the plays that are being made, a lot of them are happening out of the pocket. Guys are moving. There's motion going on, right? Quarterbacks are moving. When they're flushed out of the pocket, they're able to make plays on the run. That's not Kyle Trask's game. That's not Kyle Trask's game. He's a big, stocky, classic pro-style quarterback. And save Tom Brady, I don't see many of those guys that are really having as much success in the league anymore doing that. I don't think it's at least winning. Like, I mean, obviously Kirk Cousins has been able to do it, but even he can get out of the pocket a little bit, right? Derek Carr's a good example. But are those guys the guys who are going to win Super Bowls? Are they going far in the playoffs? I don't think so. It's the guys who are kind of able to move out of the pocket, the Mahomes, the Hurts, the Burrows, the Josh Allens. If Justin Herbert ever gets there, you can throw him in there, right? Russell Wilson's been able to make a career out of doing that. That, to me, is a big reason why also I'm a bit iffy on Kyle Trask, is zip and mobility. And I just don't think those two things are recipes for success in 2023 if you don't have one, or in this case, you don't have both. And the other thing here is 2 years in the Bruce Arians system, he has not mastered it. He's not mastered it. He's had 2 years to learn the Bruce Arians system, has not mastered it. Now, you can say, okay, well, the Bucs were obviously competing. They wanted to have a veteran backup in there behind Brady. So how much of a chance did he get to really jump or leapfrog Blaine Gabbert on the depth chart? That's fair. That's fair. But you can force the issue. You can force the issue. And I'm just saying, from being at some of these practices, you could see there's a difference in Blaine Gabbert and there's a difference in Kyle Trask. There is a bit of a drop-off there. And I think the Bucs also told you in Week 18 how they feel about Kyle Trask. They did, okay? By not playing him outside of 9 snaps, I think it was, in Week 18 against Atlanta in a meaningless game, they told you how they feel about Kyle Trask. So that's why I've continued to say that if Kyle Trask is the option at quarterback this year, if he's the starter, if that's who you're rolling with, then that tells me the Bucs have exhausted every other option, and they've come to the conclusion, okay, it's not worth it. Price tags of some of the other guys are kind of a little bit heavier than we want to take on, maybe. The market's not there. We're just going to go with Kyle Trask, and we're going to see what we have, I guess, take our lumps and move on to 2024. And if he pans out, he pans out. I think that's kind of what you're seeing right now. And listen, I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to be wrong. Again, I've just like all the Bucs fans here, I've sat through a lot of the quarterbacks that we've had to endure sitting through, I guess is the way to put it, from the Josh Freemans and the Byron Leftwiches and the Chris Sims, and I can go on and on and on. And I don't want that. You don't want that. So I would hope I'm wrong if he ends up being the guy that he shuts me up, I guess, is what you're going to say. James right here, what amazes me is how bad the defense was in 2022. If you watch video series in the current, you can make a case that the 2021 team was better than the Super Bowl 2020 team, yet the D underperformed and Leftwich was exposed on offense. Basically, Todd Bowles failed. If I were the Glazers, I would fire BA for hoodwinking them on BA for Bowles. What a spit show. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, to the first point, I think that 2021 team in some ways looked like it could have been better than the 2020 team, but they got injured at the wrong time. The AB antics, we all know what happened. The defense, to me, this year, it was a little bit of a fool's gold. When they faced the really good offenses in the NFL this year, from the Chiefs to the Bengals to the 49ers and then to the Cowboys, I think those were the 4 best offenses they faced this year. They gave up, 42 against Kansas City? What was it, 34 against Cincinnati, 35 against San Francisco, and 31 in that playoff game against Dallas. It's not good. It's not good. The defense did take a huge step back in 2022. How much of that was Todd Bowles being maybe less hands-on? with the defense, if that's a thing, because now he's the head coach and he's running the show a little bit. I know he says he wasn't involved with the offense as much, but you have to imagine it's a little bit different than focusing 100% on the defense and getting to know those guys, because you got to get to know the offense guys as well. So how much did that play a part in it? Obviously, Shaq Barrett was a big deal. You didn't really have a 4-man rush for majority of the year, and I think some guys took some steps back throughout the year. So I think that's a fair point. On Todd Bowles failed. Yeah, again, it's hard to argue that, but I just don't think the Bucs are going to make a decision like that at this point of firing Todd Bowles right now. I think it's a little bit late in the game to try to make a decision like that. And clearly they've had their meetings already. And if the Glazers sat down with Todd Bowles in a room, which is what they did for their exit meetings this year, and they didn't like the way that Todd Bowles' future, his plan, his vision for going forward, what it was, and he didn't like his reasonings for why things failed this year, Todd Bowles wouldn't be the head coach, because that's what happened with Lovie Smith, right? I don't think the Bucs had every how do I put that? I don't think the Bucs wanted or planned, rather, there you go, planned to hire or to fire Lovie Smith after the 2015 season. I don't think they did. I think they went into the exit meetings and they wanted to see what the plan was going forward. What's your vision? And they didn't like what Lovie Smith was selling. And they said, okay, well, we're just going to fire you. I think it's a little bit different here. I think they are going to give Todd Bowles a second year. They've given every head coach that they've had, from Raheem Morris to Lovie Smith to Dirk Cutter to Greg Schiano. They've given all these guys at least 2 years. And the reality is, Todd Bowles' first year, for as chaotic as it was a lot better than all those other guys, right? From the Schianos to the world to the Dirk Cutter. It was a lot better. Maybe not better. I mean, Dirk Cutter won 9 games, yes, but he didn't get into the postseason. Todd Bowles did. And I know the division, but he did. And ultimately, I think that kind of matters to the Glazers. I mean, they put more money in their pockets, right? It's better business. So I think Todd Bowles is going to get that second year. Whether I like it or not, or whether Bucs fans like it or not, and then we'll go from there. Richie, no, you did. Yeah. So if you missed what I said there, we had to record a little bit earlier because JP has some business today, so he could not make it. So I just cut in here. I've been pushing the buttons and monitoring things, making things are going all right. The Monken news came, so I felt like I would jump in here, and I've been reading everybody's comments. We've had great interaction today, so I thought I would put some of my opinion out here and go back and forth with y'all. So yes, that is why I am wearing the hoodie today, because it's really cold outside. So no, Richie, your eyes are not deceiving you. All right, we're going to take a break here, and when we come back, to get back to some of the stuff that we had recorded before. We're going to re-rack that Rondé Barber interview, because we're still very excited that Rondé got into the Hall of Fame, got a chance to speak with him before the Hall of Fame. We got a chance to speak to him last week, the day after he got into the Hall of Fame. So we're going to go over that interview again, because this is a really big moment for a guy who should have been in a long time ago, but we're thankful now that it happened. So we'll come back and play that interview with Rondé Barber.
Sure your home insurance is in order. In the last year, many of us have made improvements to our homes. So call the folks at Italiano and discuss these upgrades to make sure you have enough coverage. According to a recent report, almost 64% of homeowners don't have enough insurance on their home, which is their most valuable asset. Also, a great time to make sure you have flood insurance. Even if your mortgage company does not require flood insurance, your home could still be at flood risk. Another big item as we enter hurricane season is making sure your pool enclosure is added to your policy and there will be no issue at claim time. That happens a lot. So call your friendly agent at Italiano Insurance to review your policies today. 813-877-7799 or ItalianoInsurance.com. Well, it's that time of year to renew or shop your health insurance provider, and you can get great health insurance for $20, $30, $50 a month. Just call 888-325-0605 to help navigate the health insurance marketplace. 1 out of 3 people in Florida are uncovered because they think they can't afford it. Not true. I made the call a couple of years ago, and they helped me get Blue Cross Blue Shield coverage, Florida Blue, for just $20 a month. Last year, it went up to $49. Oh, well. It all depends on your income and your family situation. It's a free call, 888-325-0605. They will ask for some income information. So if you have your tax returns available, that will be great, but you don't need it. They'll just answer some simple questions, and the highly trained reps will do the work for you to find out what your subsidy will be. 888-325-0605. And if you have a plan through your employer, you may be able to get it cheaper. It's a free call, so find out, folks. This has been a lifesaver for me and saved me thousands of dollars over the last few years, and you can choose your plan. It's a no-brainer. Find out. Make the free call. 888-325-0605. Get covered like me and thousands of others. 888-325-0605. The PGA Tour is back. The Valspar Championship returns to Innisbrook March 16th to the 19th with 4 days of great golf action and a host of fun activities that make it Tampa Bay's hottest spring sports ticket. Every tournament day offers something different. On Friday, we'll celebrate St. Patrick's Day with the wearing of the green. Saturday means Valspar Live, where tournament patrons will be able to enjoy country music superstar Darius Rucker with a free 90-minute show after the conclusion of play. And on Sunday, we're going to crown a champion. You don't want to miss it. Everybody will be there. Tickets on sale now at ValsparChampionship.com for all tournament days, both grounds and premium ticket options. You don't want to miss it. The 2023 Valspar Championship.
Hey guys, it's a new year, so are you looking for a new you to lose weight, lean up? There are many diets and chiropractors and weight loss clinics out there, but you know where to start? Bay Area Modern Medical Center. Chris Lugo, PA, and his professional staff will devise a personal plan for you that gets results and help you keep the weight off. Everybody metabolizes food and supplements differently, and many of these other approaches are designed for the masses, the quick weight loss, but it doesn't stay off, right? Chris will spend one-on-one time with you to find out what works best for you, so the weight comes off safely without use of drugs that only work temporarily. So call 844-977-3477 or go to BAMMC.com. And Chris will join us each Monday at 11:45 to talk about your wellness and the significant injuries to athletes in the sports world. That's 844-977-3477 or BAMMC.com.
Pure sports. JP is back on.
Welcome back.
FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show. 30 minutes left here today. The second hour again brought to you by Bay Area Modern Medical Center. Chris Lugo joined us yesterday on Monday's post-Super Bowl edition of the JP Show to talk about Patrick Mahomes and how he was able to put on that performance in the Super Bowl, which is, again, one of the gutsiest performances that you'll ever see. But given the talent that he is, really not that surprising. So there's some good stuff in there about Mahomes' injury. And, of course, we talked about sleep and some good methods to get better sleep as well, which clearly I need to take because I have not been getting much. But so, yeah, good interview yesterday with Chris Lugo. I mentioned here coming back or going into break there that we were going to play the Rondé Barber interview, and we're going to do that in a second. Again, like we said last week, it's a great moment for Rondé to go in. And I think people understand how important and great that defense was for the Buccaneers in 2002 with 4 Hall of Famers going in. That's Pittsburgh Steelers steel curtain level. I think they had 5 guys that went into the Hall of Fame. The Bucs got 4. The Ravens in 2000 only got 2. The Bears in 1980 and the Bears in the 80s got 3, I believe. The Bucs got 4. They got 4. And again, I want to see a 5th with Simeon Rice, but you know, they were not a dynasty. They only got the 1 Super Bowl ring to their name, so it's probably going to be difficult to get Simeon in there. But 4 Hall of Famers, that's a big deal. Rondé should have been in years ago. When you look at the numbers, continue to get passed over. But let's play that interview from Friday's show from Rondé Barber. Let me get it loaded here up. And you could kind of hear the excitement in his voice when he was presented there at the NFL Honors last Thursday.
All right, let's welcome in the man of the hour, newly inducted Hall of Famer, the great Rondé Barber, joining us live from Phoenix. What's up, my friend? How are you? A little hungover?
How you doing, Jake? No, not yet. I'll save that for tonight, man. Yesterday was a long day.
Indeed it was. I know you were out at Waste Management tournament recruiting players as well, but it was long time awaited. I knew, obviously, that you knew before you were going in, so it wasn't a surprise last night. But what was your emotional well-being last night especially the moment walking out on the stage to your good friend and teammate Derek Brooks? What was that like?
Well, I've had some big moments in my career. This was kind of up there too. Not quite the same, but I was talking with some of the other guys backstage, and once you retire, that feeling of walking through a tunnel kind of goes away.
Yeah.
It kind of resurfaced a little bit last
Wow.
night when you take those first couple of steps through that. But yeah, great emotions, man. JP, I wish I could say it was all about me, but I know it's not. My family and friends are there. My daughter, it didn't show on air. My daughter got to sing during one of the breaks with Kelly Clarkson.
No way.
So
Oh
I got
God.
my scene was stolen by Yamil last night. So it made for a fantastic day.
Shay
man,
is going to be
for
so
us.
jealous. Oh my gosh. Well
Right.
done. We need to get the two of them to sing together. That's incredible. And I know so much about this is teammates and family and the people that, and you'll have a great speech, I know, but give us a little preview of the folks you want to thank and that have helped you along the way.
Oh, well, obviously it doesn't start with anybody but Tiki and my mom. Single parent, raising two knuckleheads back then. We grew up to be kind of all right, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had so many mentors and coaches along the way. My high school coach, Steve Spangler. Get through college, Art Marcos, who was my DB coach. Those guys that in the NFL, Raheem for the world, Mike Tomlin, Jimmy Lake, even, and then of course Herm Edwards, my first DB coach. Those guys all molded me, man.
Yeah.
So when I look at myself going into the Hall of Fame, I'm looking at those guys going in right along with me because they're part of what I did. So I'm looking forward to it. The speech, I don't know. I just got to figure out a way to start it. If I can get going, I think I'll be all right.
Yes, you will. Well, what you go. I don't know if I've ever asked you this question in a long time, but I think it's appropriate right now. Having such a rough first year, what took you out of that? What was it that made you become the pro? I've heard the story of Herm Edwards, basically saying, I can't play him. He's not a professional yet. Where did you take me through that metamorphosis?
That's man. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that question. I mean, I remember the process though. And it wasn't that I wasn't a pro. I just didn't know what being a pro meant.
Right.
Like, what does that even mean?
Right.
How do you quantify that to a guy that's coming out of Virginia with a lot of success and really everything had come easy for me up to that point? But I will tell you this: when I went to camp, and because everybody was telling me I wasn't big enough to play in the NFL, all those stories. Oh, he's only 5'9", 184 pounds. I remember I came to camp that year, and I'd done a lot of working out, lifting. I was like 195 pounds when I first got to Tampa, thinking that I needed to be big and strong to play in the NFL. And Herm was right. I couldn't move. All the quickness and shiftiness that defined me later in my career, that definitely was not there my rookie year. But by the end of the year, just going through practice, I remember Herm did tell me this. He's like, "You're not going to play. You're not ready, right?" Same thing he told everybody. Yeah. But I want you to take every single rep you can in practice, every single one. Don't come out. Don't take a break. Don't let somebody else do your deal. By the end of that year, the development had started. And then by the next year, when I got my opportunity, I just ran with it. And that off season, I literally lost 10 pounds and got to the playing weights I played out the rest of my career. So, it was just a learning curve. And I got up the learning curve faster than probably they even expected.
Ronde Barber joining us here, going into the Hall of Fame in August. We will all be there, of course. Now, when you take that second step, so what was the second step? Okay, now I belong. Now I'm playing. Now I'm do you look around and you say, wow, these guys are really, really good. How do I get to the level of Derek Brooks? Take me through that whole next level that took you to the all-pro level.
Yeah, this is good because when you're in a room full of Hall of Fame type players, obviously we got three other ones from that team, and you could throw Simeon Rice and some other Dexter Jackson, Blake Smith, Brian Kelly and Donnie Abraham, who are the high level players. Yep. You go into meetings and post game, and Monty watched every single snap with the entire defense. This is no joke. And everybody in every room, defensive line, linebackers, and in the secondary, you got called out, or not just by the coaches, but by the players. You got called out or celebrated. I remember thinking, I'm going to get on this film, and I want everybody to talk about how good I did, something good that I did. And that was like a driving factor, motivating factor. Mm-hmm. If I missed a reroute or something, and the quarterback threw the ball down the sideline in like cover two, Warren Sapp's in the back of the room yelling, Randy, you got to get that reroute, puppy. It's like the accountability that we had on our team, I think separated us. It's why we became such a good unit. And so the next steps, if you're asking what the next steps, it probably started there.
Right.
And wanting to, perfect my craft so I could be the type of player that was celebrated in my room, and then everything else just follows in line. And it was a great run. Hell of a journey, man. I don't know if there's one moment where I could say, nah, I have it. I figured it out. But I felt all the way along the line, I got incrementally better each and every day, or at least tried to. And it helped me make a whole bunch of plays.
I'm doing this interview like I'm trying to learn as much from a Hall of Famer as I possibly can. I sometimes I don't remember some of these answers, but I think they're even better than they were the first time. So my next question is, because I always like to learn from the greats, and I've asked, I've had the opportunity to interview some of the greatest, and I've always asked this question: what took you to the next level in terms of, and I know your study and everything else, but let's just go a little bit deeper. How does a 5'9", whatever, 185-pound guy start 215 consecutive games and make the plays that you made? I mean, it's all about making plays, right? We see people. I can go name a lot of really good players that don't have 10 interceptions in 5 years.
Yeah.
Making the picks, getting the forced fumbles, getting the sacks. There's something there. Everybody says, well, he's always around the ball. What is it? Tell me, how'd you do it?
Right. It's, what, you can say that. It's funny. So the Bucs sent out prior to give you a little anecdote here. The Bucs sent out prior to the vote for the Hall of Fame. They sent out that video of all my touchdowns, right? And some of them were fumbles, and the interceptions. And my buddy Brian Radigan, his daughter Ferris, was watching the video with him, and she goes, "The ball just kind of goes to him all the time." All the time. She's 9 years old. She's got the great perspective. The ball just kind of goes to wherever he is all the time. I would answer your question by saying, you prepare yourself to be there, right? Like there's certain pre-snap keys and formations and tendencies that players and coordinators like to do, that if you just study enough, you're gonna put yourself in a position to be ready to make a play. And so you don't go out and just make plays. I hate when people say, just go make a play, just go make a play. It's not possible to just go make a play. You do your job, and then the opportunity comes, and you're prepared for that opportunity, you're going to make a play. So I like to say that, a lot of my interceptions were touchdowns, and a lot of the big plays that I made in my career, I made them look easy. It's because I was in position to make them look easy. And then all I had to do was do my job. Then the athleticism and the instincts and all those other tangible things that people like to try to quantify, those turn you into a really good player. So I'd say it's a combination of a bunch of things, but the top of the list is preparation, man. You have to prepare for success. If you don't, you're just trying to get by on, pure talent. And pure talent has never made a Hall of Famer, ever. Unless you're Lawrence Taylor.
That was awesome. That answer was freaking awesome. That not only for football, but for life. Nick has a question.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about like the second half of your career when you were still a productive player, and obviously there were some lean year there's here with the Buccaneers, and a lot of players, and we see it, I think more so now, they go kind of, for lack of like ring chasing, right? And they want to win, and they leave and go elsewhere. But you stayed through all those lean years, and you ended up being, I think, the longest tenured Buccaneer. Did that mean something to you at that time? Was there ever a thought of, hey, maybe I want to leave Tampa Bay right now?
No, never. Actually, when Bruce Allen was here, and I remember, and JP will remember this very well. I was so underpaid as a corner in the league, considering my success. And this is because the year after I signed a long-term deal under Rich McKay, the next year I led the league in interceptions, and I'm on this 6-year deal that's paying me like, I don't know, mid-tier cornerback money. And I stuck with it. I understood what I was to this team. And then Bruce Allen gave me a long-term extension when I was 31 years old. So I was 31 years old, and I'm making the most money that I've made in my career. But it was a commitment from them that made me commit to the Buccaneers. And at the end of my career, I remember my agent, Ethan Locke, he was like, "I'm not even charging you for your contract now because you've been here for so long. We're just recycling one-year deals again." So there was never an option for me in my mind that I even considered leaving. I like to say it, and JP's heard me say this 1,000 times. I had a lot invested in the emotional bank account for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Glazer family's been great to me, then and since. So I knew I was a lifetime Buck, and I'd seen Trap leave and go to Oakland. I saw John leave and go to Denver. They, I think, concertedly didn't want to see another one of their legends leave and go have some success somewhere else.
Rondé Barber joining us here. And Rondé, I know it's going to be a big celebration, but how do you envision August going? Like, what is that going to be like for you in terms of family and friends and being up on the dais with some incredible players and just putting on that gold jacket and seeing your bust?
Yeah, that's the process from here on out. I think is going to be hectic, but fun. How do I see it? I'd love to get all 3 million people in Tampa, St. Pete that love me as a football player and transport them to middle of nowhere, Ohio, and celebrate with me. But yeah, it'll be. We actually have a site visit in March, early March. I get to go up there and figure out where I want to do a party and try to get a feel for what it's going to be like standing on that stage. And they'll set us down on this weekend, actually measure us for our jacket, do the initial measurements for the bus. Wow. Do all the memorabilia and all that stuff, and then later, an expert will come to the house and start carving out the actual bus. I mean, it's surreal to think about what's coming in the next couple of months for me, but I'm looking forward to it. And trust me, JP, I'm going to try to put on one hell of an epic party.
Well,
you know me well enough to know that I like to get after it with my friends.
Well, listen, I was just remembering your retirement party, and I still have that CD of you and everybody doing that Michael Jackson dance, which was phenomenal. Living out your childhood dream. Like all football players want to be entertainers. All entertainers want to be football players. And you got to do it, man. You crushed it. So you set the bar really high as far as after that retirement party. So I don't know. You and Claudia are going to have to come up with something exceptional to beat that. But I have every confidence that you are going to do that. And I better get an invite. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, you will, buddy. You definitely will.
So I cannot wait. Well, listen, man, in closing, I just can't thank you enough for all you've done for me. And I'm getting choked up here. From the first time that you walked on that set at News Channel 8, I knew that, you were a humble man and you wanted to learn. And I tried to give you everything I could. And watching tape with you over the years, you taught me so much about this game. I watch all your episodes that you do for the Bucs. I secretly stalk you on all this stuff you do and because I just can't stop listening to you because you're one of the smartest, kindest, most wonderful people, and you're a fucking badass. You are a fucking badass. And I've never seen a player in my life play with the ferocity and the complete commitment and awareness and everything that goes into it. And more than that, just the will to win against all odds. And I don't think there's ever been a player that's done it better with what they were given physically and absolutely transformed it into a Hall of Fame player. It's one of the most amazing stories I've ever witnessed, and I've got to witness it really up close. And thank you for everything you've done for my kids, Cullen and Shay, my family. The words just they just aren't worthy of what my gratitude for you, my man, really aren't. So thank you.
Thanks, JP. I don't even know how to respond to that other than say I love you, dude. I say it all the time, man. I love you. But it's been an honor being on this journey. Being on this journey with people like you, man. You're one of my closest friends. I'll do whatever you ask me to do because we've been through all this a long, long time, man. A long time. This journey is never walked alone. It is never walked alone, man. I'm glad I've had you with me.
There was our interview last Friday with newly elected Pro Football Hall of Famer Rondé Barber. That was a cool moment there at the end with him and JP. JP's had the privilege of being around some incredible athletes during his career, but none more important to him, I think, relationship-wise than Rondé Barber. I'd say Rondé Barber and Bobby Bowden are probably the two relationships that he has cherished the most, and you could tell there the emotion that JP had. So really nice interview. Again, we can't say enough. Congratulations to Rondé Barber. This was 6 years, I believe, in the making to get the greatest slot corner of all time in the Hall of Fame, which is wild to think about, but it's great that it happened. So we'll take our final break here, and we'll come back, and I'll kind of read some more of the comments. We got a lot of comments coming here. That's been great. And also the Rays. It's baseball season. It's baseball season. And pitchers and catchers reported today. Tyler Glasnow and his nice lettuce are out there at Disney. So we'll chat a little bit from Rays, and we'll get you set for tomorrow as well. So be back here in about 3.
Hey, folks, it's still engagement season, and where better to get that special ring than the Gold and Diamond Source? The Gold and Diamond Source has the largest selection of engagement rings in the country, a literal jewelry super center with 30 times the inventory of any normal jeweler. You don't have to wait to spend any extra time waiting for them to bring something in. They have everything right there in-house, so why go anywhere else? And you can get up to 15% off this January if you buy something with the birthstone, which is garnet. Garnet and Gold, Florida State, get something for your favorite Seminole. And let's not forget the Emily collection from Emily Johnson Weintraub. Very affordable, real gold and diamond jewelry, always stylish and unique. Emily has created this fashion-forward gold, diamond, and gemstone jewelry line ideal for everyday wear. Each piece is designed to enhance your look by featuring eye-catching, modern, geometrical shapes. Really unique stuff. Got to check it out. And, of course, Julie and Steve Weintraub, great benefactors here in the local community. So let's keep it local. And you can get 0% financing for up to 5 years. Get a big ring for a little price. It's the Golden Diamond Source, 3800 Olmerton Road, always online at thegoldendiamondsource.com.
Are you concerned your spouse might be cheating or want to locate a long-lost relative or love? Or a missing person and the police are not helping? An insurance adjuster who needs proof of injury. Hi, I'm Rachel D'Antonio from Tampa Bay's premier private investigation agency, Emerging Investigation. We have a proven track record of results. Local attorneys and insurance companies hire us to discover insurance fraud and crucial information in criminal cases. We can help in custody matters, and we devote a tremendous state-of-the-art technology and cutting-edge industry surveillance techniques to get you trusted results. Larger corporate agencies can be more expensive and do not offer the personal level of customer service and interaction that we pride ourselves on. We are a family-owned business. Our professional experience team includes my son, lead investigator Zach D'Antonio, a former collegiate athlete, and my daughter Emily, who leads our in-house investigations team. Don't take matters into your own hands by trying to install snooping programs on phones or GPS trackers. That can cause unneeded stress and give you inaccurate results. Go with the professionals at Emerging Investigations. We have proven results and tremendous testimonials from our satisfied customers. Call for a free consultation and we can discuss how we can help. Peace of mind is as valuable as bad news. Just go to our website, emerginginv.com, or call 813-291-FACT. That's emerginginv.com. We're Emerging Investigations. We get results in life's biggest matters.
Pure sports. JP is back on.
Welcome back.
FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back to the JP Peterson Show. Once again, brought to you by Bay Area Modern Medical Center here in our second hour. Having a good time here on a Tuesday, talking Bucs and a little bit of the Super Bowl as we kind of wait to see what's going to happen here with the offensive coordinator. A lot of good interaction in here based on the news that Todd Monken, if you missed it, is going to the Baltimore Ravens as their offensive coordinator, which obviously takes him out of the running for the Bucs, which it kind of had seemed like he had turned them down anyway. And we talked about it there at the beginning of the 11 o'clock hour, how the job it's not as desirable as maybe the Bucs thought, even with having 3 Pro Bowlers on the offensive line and 2 Hall of Fame or at least 2 Pro Bowl level wideouts in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and Rashad White as well, a really good running back in the fold. It's just not a desirable job right now because of the quarterback uncertainty. So we'll continue to wait. I think there's going to be things going on this week. I did go back here with Richie a little bit talking about Todd Monken, because there were a lot of people that were kind of in favor of Todd Monken. Well, what if you just bring him in as the head coach and fire Todd Bowles? And I know JP had mentioned that, and I said that is just so unrealistic that would happen this year. But, I kind of threw the scenario out there when I was going back and forth here with Richie. If Todd Monken and the Ravens offense has a really good year, and there's a lot of room for improvement there, and it's going to be interesting to see how that works, because Greg Roman had an offense that was so catered around Lamar Jackson's strengths, right? And obviously winning his team in the regular season since Lamar Jackson took over, Can it win in the playoffs? Don't know. This year it was not great. Lamar was hurt for a large part of the season. Roman gets fired. And now Monken comes in, who's really known for kind of blending that run game with the pass game. So it's interesting to see what happens there. But if there's a big improvement in Lamar Jackson as a passer this year, and there's a big improvement in the Ravens offense in general, Todd Monken, who we've heard is looking to get a head coaching opportunity at some point in the NFL. I think that's why he jumped back in, and he put himself in a position where he's in a good spot to try to, get on the radar of some head coaching openings next time around. If things go really south like we think it might, and Todd Bowles is the lame duck head coach, is Todd Monken? Obviously, the Bucs are always going to like Todd Monken. Does he become a head coaching candidate next year? Right? And again, that's looking so far down the road, and we got a lot to go to get there. And by no means am I going to root for the Bucs to be bad. I know I don't want to see that. But it is an interesting scenario. It's an interesting scenario to keep an eye on, because I think the Bucs are always going to be very blown away with Todd Monken, based on the fact that he looked like he was their number one name coming into this offseason. So just something to chew on for next year. But let's get through this year first. And hopefully it's a lot better than we think it might be right now. Also, I mentioned there, the Rays today, pitchers and catchers reported. The Rays down in Disney, the ESPN wide world of sports, because of the construction going on in the Port Charlotte site from the hurricane. So I think they're scheduled to play a few games there. I'm not entirely sure on that. I think they're going to have a few games there in Disney at least. So definitely would recommend making it out to one. If I recall, it's a very nice facility over there, a fun spot to watch a game. And just looking through some of the video right now, clips that are coming out, Mark Topkin on his Twitter, of Tyler Glasnow throwing. I mean, I know he's just playing pitch and catch, but listen, I'm always excited to see Tyler Glasnow. I'm always excited. He's got the hair going right now. It's in mid-season form. He's still a Ray. I'm going to keep telling JP, by the way, that they're not trading Tyler Glasnow. Okay. I know the Rays love to trade some players, but I don't think they're going to trade Tyler Glasnow. He's here. He's in camp. And I think this year, we might see this year where he is able to put it all together for a full season. Tyler Glasnow, that is. A full season's worth. I think you're going to get the best out of Tyler Glasnow. I'm thinking Cy Young contender. I think he's going to turn into the true ace of the staff. I think he is the most talented pitcher on the staff, including Shane McClanahan, who was fantastic for about 90% of the season last year. A little bit of lumps at the end of the year, but then in the playoff game that he started, he was fantastic as well. So the Rays are going to have a very good. That's probably underselling it. They're going to have a great pitching rotation. We know that. And, me and JP had recorded a little bit yesterday about the Rays, but didn't have time to play it today. But basically, we were saying, they haven't been able to land that big fish that they wanted in the lineup, right? A little too pricey for them, whatnot. Haven't been able to find fits, gets guys to attract here. Whatever it is, it hasn't happened. And that kind of goes against what Eric Neander wanted to do for an offense that scored one run in 24 postseason innings. And it's my biggest concern is that I know the Rays can do it in the regular season. And if you look at what they're saying now, okay, well, we're going to have all these guys that are coming back, and we're going to bank on these guys having much better years and staying healthy. That's fine to an extent, because I've seen them score 800 runs and be the second best offense in baseball in 2021 with a lot of the same players that they have now, right? Now, I'm not expecting them to be the second best offense in baseball this year, but this past year, I believe they were 25th. If they can get inside the top 15 in offense this year, which I think if you add a healthy Brandon Lowe to the mix, which we forget is a 40 home run hitter in Major League Baseball, and you get a healthy Wander Franco, hopefully, and you start to see him now. I mean, he's still very young. He's going to be 22 at some point this year. He's 22. He's still there's a lot of room for growth there for Wander Franco still, right? He's going to be an excellent player in this team that's here for a long time. So if you put those two guys in the equation, I think Isaac Paredes, who had 20 home runs last year and limited at bats, I think you give that guy 400 at bats or more, you might see him hit 30 home runs. I think Isaac Paredes has that type of power. So I think you put that all together, this is a team that's going to win 90 to 97 games, and they're going to get to the postseason. If they win the division, that'd be great. Probably more likely a wild card, I think, because we know how tough the AL East is. But, the Rays, again, if they can outpitch their opponents, they might win the division. We'll see. But if they can get inside the top 15 in offense, and they're going to have a top 5 staff, that's a 90 to 97 win ball game. And then I want to see what happens. I really want to see what happens, because going to the postseason every year is great, and I don't take it for granted. The World Series trip that they had in 2020 was, I guess it was a little bit unexpected. I mean, I don't know. The Rays being in the World Series against the Dodgers, I didn't see that happening, but it happened. And they got 2 games within of winning it. They've been able to get back there, but I kind of want to see them get back to that moment with this core that they have built up right now. I still think they're built for long-term success when you look at the ages of the guys that they have on this roster, the young talent, but you're chipping away. They're chipping away. And right now, the fact of the matter is they were a World Series team in 2020. 2021, they were divisional round out. And then last year in a wild card game. There's a trend there, right? So I want to see them kind of reverse that trend a little bit. And, the mentality of, okay, we got to the playoffs, but that's not good enough anymore. We want to get to the ultimate goal. So I do expect the Rays, though. They've been very quiet out there right now, and this is kind of around the time of the year where they make trades that come out of nowhere. I think they're still trying to exhaust every effort. I truly believe that, to get a bat in here, and they know that they can't allow it to be how it is right now and take that risk. Now, if that happens right now or that happens at the trade deadline when we get there and they're a competing team, we'll see. But I think you will see a bat at some point added that will put this team in better position to succeed when we get to October. All right, that'll do it for today here on a Tuesday. Had a great time being with y'all. Thank you for allowing me to jump in here and go back and forth with y'all. It's really good stuff. Tomorrow on Wednesday, we're going to be back to normal operations. JP will be back in studio. I'll be back in studio. We'll have a little bit more of a normal setup. So thank you guys for listening and watching us today. Again, brought to you by Jeeves Law Group and Bay Area Monarch Medical Center and Golden Diamond Source as well. Happy Valentine's Day. Make sure that y'all do the right thing. I'm going to try to see if I can get something going here in the final hours, which is usually how I roll. So have a great day, everybody. Go Lightning tonight as well against in Colorado.
Catch the JP Peterson Show Monday